Welcome aboard. Nice to have you back, my esteemed followers, to this our ongoing series, securing web API with ASP.NET Identity Management and JWT token using clean architecture designer approach. Today we shall be looking at how to create interfaces, consume those classes for us to be able to register a user, retrieve existing user, created user. So if time permits us, we will extend it to authentication where token will actually be generated and used to access some very secured resources. So stay tuned with me as we look at the activities for the day. You from the project structure, infrastructure project, we already have a user registration object and user role extension of the existing role model from ASP.NET Identity Management. We equally updated the database the last time to use identity management DB context. So bulk of our activities today will be on the application call and the web API. The application call, we shall be creating some DTO classes, updating auto mappers, interfaces, then consuming those interfaces, and the rest of others. So for the web API, we'll be creating a controller that will consume the interface and at the same time expose the endpoint for us to be able to create user. So please stay tuned as we move on to the structure from the last time. This is exactly where we stopped. You can see the API, nothing has changed. We created a basic employee, which was possible for us to register employee that day. So today we'll be registering user that can have access to this application and manage things. Recall I said the last time the employee is different from a user. You could be an employee in a system and yet you don't have permission to access anything there. But when you are created as a user, you'll be able to perform some roles. So that is that. For the core, we have a existing interface for the employee and the rest. For the infrastructure, we have the entity that we are dealing with. We have the DB context. Like I said, the DB context is now using identity management DB context. So that is it. We shall be starting today, hitting the ground running. We don't need to waste much time. So stay tuned and let's review together. Right. So let us start by creating a DTO object that we expect the user from front end to pass into the application. Let's create a class, let's call it user registration. Call it user registration DTO. We can call it user registration DTO. Okay. All right. Quickly make it public. Make it public. All right. Let's quickly populate this with some items. Some items like we are expecting them to pass through. Not wasting much time. Let's populate this with user ID. Okay, let's resolve this with data annotation. Okay, all right. The user ID, we don't expect it to come from outside because this is auto-generated as you create a user from the DB, but we might need it when we want to retrieve in case we want to update or want to be specific. So the username, this one we will supply it as you are registering the user. The email, we expect it to come. The password, this is the role that the user belongs to. So because we have we created the last time we created some entities. Okay, we created some entities that made us to be able to use the extension of a user, which means by extension, the user is supposed to supply first name, last name, user role. So there are actually some items that are not defined here that will inherit from the existing object, this identity user. So when a user want to come in from outside through this DTO, we expect that all these basic things will equally come with it. So we don't want to be reinventing the wheel every time by typing it over and over. So, all right, let's quickly look at this. Uh, since we have a first name, last name from this object, we're inheriting it. We will not need it here again. Let's quickly look at where's this object. We have first name, last name, our first name, last name. We have user row. Okay, that user row can stand, which means we will not need it here. We don't need first name, uh, even email. Email will come from there. We don't need. Okay, we have username here. Email is expected to come from there. String email address. Okay, this is just for validation purpose. Email will come from there. All right. So you can see first name and last name will come from what we inherited. That is how it's going to be. Let's quickly, thought I copied this just now. Let's quickly go back and update this. Okay, this DTO. Put this here. Let's resolve. Okay. All right. And this will come from there. Okay. All right. We expect a password to be passed in by the user. Then this row, we are going to use it to retrieve when we get there. So we've created a request. So let's equally create a response. Let's quickly create a response so that when a user is created successfully, we will get a object that we expect to be returned. Okay, let's create a response object here too. Okay, user registration response is created. Okay, what do we expect from that class? Let's look at just few items. A message, if it has error and the rest, we should be able to see them there. Sorry, mouse is acting up. So turn it to public. All right. So I expect a success or failure based on what we're expecting after creation. Okay, we have done this. Let's quickly move on to the entity, the auto mapper. We want a situation whereby this DTO, we're able to map it straight, the items that are being brought by it, we're able to map it to that of the user reg, because the user reg is the entity that will actually be saved or be gotten from the database directly, whereas the DTO is just to bring those data from outside. Once they come from outside, we convert it and we move on. We don't want the outsiders to know the nature of the structure purely. That is the essence for that. The structure is very, very important for us to abstract certain aspect of the program, the software from end users. So this is okay. We have created that. The next, we've done the auto mapper now. The next is for us to okay. Let's quickly move on to this is the core. Let's go to services. Go to services to create interfaces right now. So let's see how it goes. So let's create the first interface. We are going to be using it for both. Definitely, it's going to be focusing on authentication. We normally start interface in .NET with I for differentiation. Let me say authent, repository. Okay, let's call this authent repository, which means we are expecting this interface to expose some methods, some methods that will be implemented by the abstract class. So the abstract class that will implement it, let's put it here. It's a class object that will have a class object that will implement whatever we put in the interface. So let's remove I here for the differentiation. Right. So we are good. Now let's look at what the interface, the classes they are supposed to have. The authent repository will change to public as well. Okay. The interface, today we are going to be looking at only two items for now. And those two items we shall be considering let's say the first one to authenticate. We can say task. Okay. So whatever is going to return to what we put here, you can call it registration or register. You can call it register user. So what are we expecting? When you are registering a user, we are expecting the login DTO. No, we are expecting the user. Sorry, the user registration DTO. I could put there. Let me copy it. User registration DTO. This is the object that we are expected to pass to read. Okay, we expect this and call it users. Okay, then what are we expecting to return? Like we said, we expect the whatever that happens there to be returned through this, to return through this object. So this object will be here, which means we expect a response whenever we create a user, whether successful or failed, we expect it to be returned through this. Okay, we equally should be able to get a user that was created in case we want to see whether we actually did the right thing. So I could call this one uh, get. Could call this one get users. So I'm not expecting to get all. I could get all users. I'm not expecting to pass in any parameters to there. But this one, I'm expecting a list of items. Let's say enumerable because we can have more than one user that is being registered. So we should be returning user registration detail. This is exactly what we'll be returning. A list of registered user will be returned, just as the object we are using to bring the items into it. So let's quickly move to the authentication itself that will be implementing this, is inheriting this interface. So it will be implementing all the methods that are there. So let's quickly look at how that will play out. Let's resolve it. It shows the interface. So it's implementing the interface. Then the classes that are there will equally be implemented. So like my style, I always ask to put a sync here because we are going to be using await at the end of the day. One can forget this and you'll be struggling with some issues. So a constructor needs to be created. CTORT. Okay. Short way for quickly create a constructor. So this constructor will have some items that need to be passed to it. We need to inject them into it. First on the list is the database. The database, where's my data? The database, okay, AppDB context. We need to inject this into that class to be able to have access to the abstracted methods there. So I could call this one underscore context. So the user managers, signing managers, the role managers, I need to bring them here because those ones are what will make it possible for me to be able to create, to have access to the classes for creating a user. So that is it. Okay, I'm trying to make it a bit faster. So the DB context that we try to inject here, we have to resolve it. It's coming from data folder. So the user manager, the signing manager, role manager, these are identity management classes or objects that we need to take advantage of. So let's resolve them. So identity management. So this is the object that we passed through that we created before. Okay. All right. So we have a user role that we extended before. We have the user reg that was created from our first, that's our last session. Okay. You can see them here. The user registration, the role model. So these are what exactly we need to pass through to that class. So we're able to have access to them. The auto mapper, like we did the last time, is for us to be able to convert whatever that is coming from outside to the intended entity. So we have to carefully uh, inject all of them into the constructor, starting with this, with the DB context. They can't have the same name, so we have to change this name, comma. We have a user manager, and we enable us to create user and the rest. Let's remove the underscore from it. Manager, we have a signing manager too, right? Remove the underscore as well, so that they won't be the same. Have the role manager, which will give us the permission to create role, retrieve role that the user belongs to. All right, remove this too. Then we have the auto mapper. Okay. Okay. So we have to now have passed it. So getting the value, I have to be careful about this. I have underscore context. And context is equal to the context that we are seeing there. Okay. User manager underscore user manager equal to user manager there, as you can see. Underscore signing manager is okay. It's equal to have a signing manager there too. Have a underscore role manager underscore role manager equal to role manager there. IMapper underscore mapper equal to mapper there. Okay, I think we have successfully inject them. So what we now need to do is to go to exact class for us to be able to create a user. So let's see how we can quickly create a user. I do not intend this video to be very, very long. So let's quickly create a user. So what I need to do first is to new user. Let me say new user is equal to underscore mapper. I want to map what is what is coming from outside to the expected entity dot map. So what is coming from outside is this user, as the name suggests. Then I have the entity that I will be dealing with. Like I said, this is what I will be using. So when database is created, this is what exactly I will be seen in the database. So we don't want to be seen. So we have done that. For us to create a user, we have to, there are certain things that are very, very important to identity management. Control V, like the normalize now, normalize the username. We did not definitely when we are coming from outside, we might not put anything there, but we just want to get what is supplied. Let's map it there. username. We will definitely supply username, but we don't want it to be that we have that feed to be feed differently. So another one, we have a normalized email too. Dot normalized email. They are very, very important to identity management. Without them, we will be able to create a user. Dot email, dot email. That's email that is coming from outside again. So put this here. Okay, we are good. The next thing is let's initialize what we need to return. We are returning, let me say, return response. Okay, this is what we intend to return, populate and return at the end of the day. Equal to new, new. This is what we intend to return at the end of the day. So the error you are seeing there on the under register user is because we are not returning anything. So I can come here to say return this ROS. So once we have something to return, the error is gone. So this first one we have to quickly clear. So now let's go. Let's find out if the user want to create actually existed before. Because if he existed before, there is no need. You won't be able to create it. All you need to do at that time is to go and update if there is need for that. So let's use await underscore user. We are dealing with user manager. Find our user manager dot find by email. Prefer using email because we made it unique. Find by email if it exists. So I can say users dot email. Okay, I want to find out if it exists. So if existed, what do we do? Nothing. So if it does not exist, that is where we have power. So at this time, it will be null. It will return null if it doesn't see anything there. If it's equal to null, that means it does not exist. We cannot go ahead to start create it. So let's say var is created is equal to wait underscore user manager again. That's what we use the creating user dot create asynchronously, create async new user, and the user password that was passing will be used. We have users dot password users dot password. So this is what we'll be using to create a user. Let's check if it is successful or not. If it's created, it's equal to true dot succeeded. If created dot succeeded, it means if it's able to create it, what do we have to do? The next thing is now to work on the role. We have a role. Let's say role check. Let's check the role. Role check is equal to await underscore role manager. Like I said, role manager is used for manipulating role, user roles, and the rest. If role exists, check if role exists. Don't forget the item that is coming from outside. We have a user role there. User role. Okay, we have user role that is coming from outside. We want to check if that user role exists. So we have to initialize the role itself, the role object we created before. If role is equal to role is equal to new. So this is what we use to actually create the role. Role is equal to new user role. We have a user object or class that was created before. As we can see here, this user role, that's what we are going to use to be able to create a role for that user. So role.name has a name. from the extension row.name is equal to this same user row. Hmm, to user row. So let's check if this row does not exist before. If row does not exist, it will. If not row, if not row, it means it does not exist. We have to create the row. Now have a wait that's called row manager. Row manager dot create async. Print async the row itself. This row, like I said, this object will make it possible for us to be able to create the row. So after creating the row, what do? We now have to add the user to that row. That is exactly what we need to do. We created the row, we have to now add that user to that row. So we have a wait underscore user manager dot add to role async. Add to role async. Have to add the user entity and the user entity, and okay, user entity, comma, the row itself. So we have been able to create a user there and the row. So we can now say ROS is equal to ROS dot message. The message could be user created, the ROS dot success. Let's say true. Let's say it's equal to true. The message could be user created. User created successfully. So this is it. Now, assuming it does not exist, what happens? Assuming when we check the user existed, what happened? We don't want to recreate it. We just put some value there. Sorry, I need S. If the user existed, just put a small icon there to show that the user actually existed. Okay. So I've just updated. If user created, if assuming this is a if created is successful, if it's not successful, we just say there's an error. It's created dot error. It will come with error list. We pass it through the object that we intend to return. If the user existed before when we checked, we just had to use already existed. This is just a new error that we need to send back. Error then we declare it as false. So this method will carefully create a user for us in ASP.NET using identity management. So we will move ahead to quickly look at how we can retrieve created users. Like I did say the last time, this is what you are seeing on the screen is the database. These tables were created when we ran the last migration. So a typical user, when a user is created, it will come here. The role itself, the user role, that whatever we are passing from the front will be created here if it doesn't exist. So the role the user eventually belong to will be equally going to this table, user role table. So that is the way ASP.NET Identity structure its environment. So we will not have anything because nothing is there for now. So let's quickly look at the retriever. How do we retrieve those people that the users that we have created? So we need to make this one a bit faster so that we can move to the controller. So to make it faster, I just have to do it fast. So from here, I said await because of this async here, user from user in user manager.users, which is that table I showed before, which is this very table, the user table. It's my user table. From this user table, it's going to connect this user table to this user row table and the user row. These three things we need to, for us to be able to get the row that the user belongs to. If we don't need the user row, there will be no need for that. We can just query only this table, and that will be enough for us. So I'm using a join query here to say from a user table where the user row correspond to what the ID of this user, then the role ID equally where they correspond. So this is how we definitely define returning a registered user. So this role name is for me to get a user can have 2, 3 rows. I'm trying to return a list of it so that I can equally display all the rows. Otherwise, if I were looking for only just one row, I won't go this far. So let's it's returning this whole item as a list item. Okay, it's returning as a list item. Like we said, this enumerable, this word shall be returning. It's not returning, even if it's only one, it will return it. If it's more than one, it will return them as list. So this is how we're going to look at this. If there's anything you do not understand, by the time you get the pure source code from my repo, my Git repo, you will have the complete understanding. So we have carefully done this. What we now need to quickly do is to bring the controller into it, which will, let's go to the API. We have to come up with a controller that will consume that very items we saw just now. We consume the class, the interface, then we cannot have access to the exact method we want to access from the endpoint. So this, let's pick API so that it will come with some default decorators. Okay, let's call this one call it Authent. That's Authent controller. Already have one controller, then the basic. So it came with the route, how we want to access it. It's telling you it's API controller. Otherwise, without this, you won't see it in the Swagger environment. So let's quickly create a constructor. Create a constructor for it. And the most important thing that must be passed through, that must be injected into this constructor is the interface, the I interface. For it to be able to, for you to have access to those methods that we just defined just now, you have to bring it here. So let's go to private read only, sorry, private read only, okay, underscore, can call it, sorry, uh, underscore, okay, can call it any name. And let's quickly resolve it. Go to where it is. It is the interface. All right, let's inject it into this. So when we are done here, we need to equally inject it into the, okay, we need to inject it into the program file. All right, so I can say here, this one is equal to Authent. Yes. So we have done what we are expected to do here. Okay. So we are talking of register user. We can create a method now, public async task, action result. Oh, sorry, out, public async task. Okay. Action result. Let's call it a reg user. All right. So this one will return an action result. Action result. To register a user, we said before we'll be needing this registration DTO. What is that DTO? Just now quickly. That's my okay. This user registration detail. This is the object that the user would fill that will be submitted. Okay, we take it like this. Control V. We can call that one user DTO, for instance. Okay. Right. The next thing is let's check the model if it's correct, if it is properly filled before we try to submit. Otherwise, there will be we don't want data inconsistency in the database. So we have to check model state. If model state dot is valid, dot is valid. Okay. If it's valid, before we can continue. Otherwise, we won't be able to make progress again. All right. Let's say var created again. Create user. Create user equal to await underscore this repository just now dot call it a register user. And see how object programming, dependency injection, and the rest abstraction make life easier. So what I need to do is to pass this into the method. So the method, the register user that is defined in the interface, that is exactly what we are seeing here. Okay, DTO from the DTO environment. Okay. So what the little thing we need to do now is that if created is equal to success2, because it's returning this object, and this object has some items inside which we need to check. Okay, it's response. I think it's the response dot the response returning response. If the success, if it's successful, we now return an object of response back. If it's successful, we can return return okay, return okay, return okay. The object that we're expecting to return. We have a new the object. We have a new user registration. Where's the object that is trying to return? Okay, this response. This one we want to respond, we want to show to outsider. We have new this one. So this is what we need to. Okay, let me just enter from here. This one. Let's resolve this. So we have message. Have message is equal to created user, create user dot message. Don't forget we put message there before. That is a successful or failure. We have a success. Success is equal to create user dot success. These are the things that are coming from the concrete class itself. So we'll do the same thing. If assuming it's not successful, say else. If it's not successful, what do we do? We return bad request. Return bad request. Let's copy the same context here. It's just that the values will not be different. When we return bad request, we return the message. Then definitely this one, the success will be failed. That is the meaning. So let's equally say if the valid the method, the object is not populated well, the model is not valid, what happens? We can just send any message there and be return bad request to on a bad request, bad request, and we will just say wrong format or wrong data. Can put wrong wrong data. So this is how this will come. All right. we've been able to initiate this create. Let's quickly look at what happens to what we'll do. And we need to decorate this method as HTTP, uh, HTTP, HTTP post, the route. What are we going to call the route? Let's call it, let's reg user, can call it register. Call it register. So let's do the same thing for to get the user that we registered. In case we want to see it, let's quickly do another one. Okay, so the HTTP get. For us to retrieve, we use a get. We can call this one all users. Let's say get all users. While here we can call this one all users. We don't expect anything here. We don't expect any value to be sent for us to get all users. If we are looking at a specific user, we can be talking of we can probably be talking of a user ID that will come there. So here, let's save users to await with underscore dot to get user. We'll call that method for yes, get users. Get users. Sorry, get users. Then we return OK. Return OK. The item that was brought. So this will give us the opportunity to get all users. Thank you very much. So I haven't done this. We need to quickly update the program file so that this interface and the class, this interface and the class consuming them can be linked together, can inject it into the application. So let's go to the program file where we have that. Okay, all right. Let's add it here. Let's quickly add it here. See, and there is the interface. Let's inject it with the concrete class. That okay. So at this level, we should be able to create a user using ASP.NET Identity Management. Like I said, when we are coming next time, we shall be adding JWT token session to this. We will be extending this for you to be able to use JWT and the rest. So what we want to do, let's try to see, to test the application, if we can create a user, retrieve that user. Because this same user is the one that will be able to log in and a token will be generated for him or her to access a resource that we are going to authorize with time. So if we put this, let's go to this basic employee. We used to access it. If I put, if I come here now to put authorize, I put authorize here. If you do not have token, you will not be able to access this resource. You won't be able to create an employee. You won't be able to see anything. So that's exactly what we are saying. So let's try to test the application and see if what we have done is working as expected. Otherwise, there are errors. We'll quickly correct it together. All right, let's test the application to see if it's. Let's run it in a debug mode so that I can step into the actions and see if we're online. So please don't let it quickly come up. It's taking a little time because this is a local environment. Say local environment, let it just come up. Okay, if you can see on the screen, you can see these additional two methods that we created in the controller just now, the register, the get up. Before now, this basic employee, this is what we're having. So let's quickly try out this to see. Let's try it out. Okay, the screen is too big. Okay, yes, you can see all these ID normalization. These are things that were inherited from the default object of identity management. So what we actually need starts from here. So let me quickly populate this and let's move on. Populate this. We'll start time. Okay, I have first name. You can see what I'm having there. Yeah, exactly what we need. Password. Let's try to hit the execute. Okay, all right. This is the controller. This is the method that we want to use to create the user. You can see it has an item here. Okay, let's see whether the model is correct. Okay, it's correct as expected. All right. Let's see what we can do. It's going to the class that implemented the interface. This is where we put the logic just now. The mapping has been done. You can see whatever this brought from front is now here. So the normalize the name and email, we have equally brought it here. So let's check if the user exists. We check this email, we see it, which means it will not enter this place. Otherwise, okay, it's going to database to check. It's taking time. It's taking time. If you look at the database, this way is expected to come. This way is expected to come. Nothing in here yet. So it has entered, which means it couldn't find anything. So let's see if we can create it based on that command. All right, create is successful. It's now going to the row. I want to find out whether that row exists before. If it exists, no need to create it. You just add the users to it. Otherwise, you create it. Okay, the row does not exist. That's why it's creating it. That's created it. If you now try to add the user to that row, okay, all right, it has come back to the controller. Okay, I think that's a return. All right, that's returned. It means it's created. So this is the response from it. This is the response body message user created successfully. This. So if we look at the database, we should be able to see the user that was just created. Okay, you can see this is the row that was created. That user was an admin. Then if we move further, we see the user ID and the role ID. So this is how it's being mapped. This user ID, if you check the user table, you see 4545D511. If we check there, you can see 45D511. The same thing, this row, it ends with 23C. If you go to the row, you will see 23C. You can see 23C, this is the role ID. So this is how the user is being mapped to row. So let's quickly see if we can get, if we click here, we should be able to get the user. If this session, if this one is working well, okay, you can see the response body. This is the user we just created just now, and these are the things we wanted to confirm. So on the same note too, if we say, okay, this, you remember I put authorize just now on this resource. So if I say, let me get on employee, let's see if I can get there, because this user is yet to log on. Okay, it's not found. The user is not found. The user is not okay. Get on employees. The unauthorized. Okay, server. We'll leave that for now. Let's leave that for now. So what we intended to do is to ensure that once a user does not is not authorized as seen here, this is where we put authorized details. If it's not authorized, we will not be able to access that resource. So that is where we are going to start from our next time. We are going to implement authentication so that whoever that logs on will be able to use the username and the password to get token. When that token is generated, it will come along with the role that the user belongs to and the authority. So based on that, we'll now be able to navigate any aspect. So we will deny some resources that without that authentication, without the proper role, this user now is an admin. We can say, okay, the only user that can access some specific thing is just a user or super admin. So we'll see whether if this can proceed to access those resources. So that is exactly what we need to do the next time in our next video. So please, uh, as an encouragement to me, I will appreciate if you like this video, make a positive comment and subscribe to my channel. We will go through this whole learning journey together, and at the end of the day, we will glorify the Lord for the progress that we'll be able to achieve in our career. So thank you very much for your time. God bless.